Hello, guys. Sorry for being late. I got tied up in a couple of things. Then I got a phone call, and I told him I'd have to call him back in a half hour because got something I got to do here at 2 o'clock. And then Mother Nature had to call, and uh, so at 2:59, I knew I had to get going. Hello, Charlie. Um, I ran out of time. 2 o'clock came up onto me awfully quick. So I don't know what to call our weather today. Um, but I guess I will say it's cloudy and I guess I'll say it was raining. It doesn't look like it's raining now, but the road looks like it's been wet. But it looks like it might be, I don't know. It's either starting to dry off or there's just a very, 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 very light drizzle out there that I can't see. But I don't know. It looks like it could be raining off in the distance, but it looks like to be rain. I don't know. It could be rain, smoke, whatever. But you can just kind of see it off in the tree line. If you look straight forward, you can kind of see what it looks like it's starting to rain. Hello, Ken. I did watch your video today from you and William. A couple neat things you were doing in there. I don't know. That keyframes thing, I really have to try to figure that out because I know if I tried doing the keyframes thing, it wouldn't work. Even though I've watched how you do it 15 times. I think if I were to try doing it, I don't know. You take it completely off the screen, you make a keyframe there, and then you move it to your halfway point, you make another one. Or something like that. I don't know. I just know if I tried, I don't think it would work. The keyframes, everybody's making it look easy, but for me, what looks to be easy isn't easy because my brain has problems figuring it out. Set of instructions that a second grader would be able to understand and be able to follow through with it, I wouldn't be able to. I'm just not good at doing that. Uh, just a little bit of Microsoft news here. And I forget the version they're talking about with those Power Toys. I think it was 0.95 or something like that. But Power Toys is now adding auto dark light mode scheduling. So if you want your dark mode to turn on or off at a certain time of day or night, you can now schedule that. So if you want your dark mode to be turned off by, I don't know, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, you can schedule it. If you want it to be turned back on, you can set it just before the sun goes down. Like around here, it's around 7:15. I'd set my dark mode on around 7:15 or off, whichever you want to do. But that's kind of neat that they're starting to do that. And here's something I've never heard of. I don't know if you guys have. Hello, Jeff. You're still learning keyframes. Yeah, it is something to. Uh, yeah, I'll get the hang of it eventually. But then once I do, I learned how to get it to do several things at once. Once I get that in my head and get it to stick and be able to understand it, I'd imagine I'll be doing some pretty funky things, but I'm like with Ken, I have no imagination. I couldn't think of. Well, I'll tell you. Um, I'll get back to the Microsoft stuff here in a minute, but just get off topic here for a second. That image. Oh, you're not turning it. What the? Okay, that. The May I Help You, which I've been needing to slow down now for a couple of weeks now, and I haven't done it. Um, I don't know. I'll. I don't know. I don't. I'd like to make something like this on my own, not have it made by something or somebody else. But I don't have the keyboard. I don't have the monitor. I don't have these two things that look like speakers in the back. Those two round things and the. I don't know what those are. But this Welcome to Rick's Tech Pub live stream, I've been wanting to change that for many months now because the days are wrong. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You guys know that it's Monday through Friday. I skip Saturday, and then I go back to having one on Sunday. So I need to fix this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 2 p.m. The 2 p.m. is right. Everything else on it is wrong. I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe having the Rick's Tech Pub come sliding in from the left, live stream come sliding in from the right, and then the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 2 p.m. just kind of fade into position. It just kind of fades in, and then fades. I don't know if I'll have a fade out, but I don't know. There's some things I'm working on, but me in my head thinking and doing are two different things. I can think all I want. It's getting to doing it. And then I just keep putting it off, and then eventually I forget about it. That's a bad habit of mine. So I'll just keep putting things off, and they'll say, yeah, I'll get to it, and then I never get to it. Unless I'm getting paid for it, like at one of my jobs, I'm not going to put something off then, even though I'd like to. I'm not going to, because if somebody's throwing me, 50 or hundreds of dollars in my pocket, I'm not going to say, oh, I'll deal with that later, and just never do it. They wouldn't like me if I did that. But yeah, as far as this, yeah, I've put it off long enough. I need to do something with it. But for now, it's going to stay that way until I can think of something to replace it with. But for now, it is staying the way it is. Oh, where was I? Oh yeah, something I've never heard of. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Google Keep reminders. Google reminders, I think. I don't know. That's just what I saw on Brentex. Took a few things off of Brentex channel. And Google Keep reminders are moving to Google Tasks. Well, that doesn't bother me much because I've never used it. I like I said, I don't do good with reminders. Hell, I can't remind myself to do something. How would I remember to do Google Keep reminders? That'd just be adding another thing for me to forget. And then lastly, and this is something I'm kind of thinking about, the end of Windows 10. I know for a lot of people, the end of Windows 10 is a bad thing, but they're also saying that about Windows 7, Windows XP. I think once people get onto an operating system long enough, like Windows 7, 8, and 10, I don't think too many people used 8, so 8.1, but 7 especially, maybe XP. They're people stay on it long enough and they want to stay with it. And then the other is people just have a horrible habit of not being able to adapt to change. It really, Windows 10, Windows 11, and anything going forward, it's just going to be Windows 10 with a new coat of paint. That's all they're doing. It's just Windows 10 They're just calling Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 12, but basically it's running on the same concept as Windows 10. They just keep rearranging things, moving things, so it takes you forever to find things or adding things like Copilot, which I have yet to use. Um, Chat GPT. I tried using that once or twice and it couldn't understand me. Inquire or something not understood, or I don't know if I was having problems at its end or my end, but I think it was me. It just basically what it was telling me is you're not asking your question correctly so that I can understand it. Please try again, except it said it in its own tech jargon, which Nate came down here, looked at it, and said, what that's telling you is it's not understanding you. You've got to rephrase your question, and your words can only be said in a certain way. ChatGPT and Copilot won't let you just ask the question any which way you want. You have to use specific keywords. Because now that Nate said that, I'm thinking now that Copilot and ChatGPT are picking up on keywords, certain kind of keywords, and is putting that. I don't know how it works, but I've basically given up on those two because I can't get them to understand me. Everybody else in the world can get Copilot and everything, ChatGPT to do what they want. I've tried it like 2 or 3 times, and like, no, it's not gonna work. So I put them back to bed, and that's where they're gonna stay. I never was a Copilot or ChatGPT fan, or all those AI stuff, even though they're saying Windows 12 is going to be nothing but AI. We'll see how fast people adapt to that. I don't know. Windows 11 is good in its own ways, but they've also added a bunch of things in there that I really don't think they should. If I were to have it my way, and I know a lot of people say this, and I think Bill Gates would even say it, that if we were to run, or if he were to run Microsoft today, we'd go back to the Windows 7 days. Windows 7 and moving forward, I think was a big mistake, or kind of a big mistake for Microsoft to do, because I mean, look at Windows 7 compared to Windows 11, and I think you can kind of see why people are bitching and complaining about Windows 11. When you go back to Windows 7, yeah, Ken, you're right. Most people hate change. It's not that I hate change, but I don't adapt to it very well. That's why that's why I'm also self-employed. Because when I was working for the man in '95, and they're having me do something different than what I did the day before, I couldn't adapt to that. I couldn't I couldn't get it out of my head. I was doing something for the last 4 or 5 months, and then they take me from the same job, but they have me doing something different. That's something different. I can never do it right because I'm used to how I was doing what I was doing before I got switched over to the new job, and I just, in my head, I just couldn't adapt to it. And I think after about 2 weeks of that, my boss, Joe, something, I forget his name, he finally noticed it because he was looking at me from, up above. He's one of those people, he gets to look down at everybody because he is upstairs and the windows are kind of slanted, so he can just look down at everybody, and he'd look at me, and he was noticing I was having problems. So after about so many months of that or whatever, they switched me back to what I was doing, and I was much happier with doing that, going back to that, until I quit 2 months later. I guess I got tired of the whole thing, but the point is, I think I adapt to change. I don't think my mind does. I don't think my body does. I think the way I've been doing things for so long, my mind kind of gets in a rut, and it wants to keep doing it that way. Then you show me a new way of doing something instead of doing it the old way. Well, I'll ask you, why can't I do it the old way instead of doing it the new way? Well, that's kind of what Microsoft did, the legacy thing. There are things you can still do in Windows 11 that, not everything. There's quite a few things they've taken out, but um, Notepad is still there. Some of the old programs are still there. Some of the old ways of doing things with Windows are still there, even though they've added new ways of doing things. Jeff, I quite frankly don't understand all the glorification of Windows 7. I consider 10 much better. I've never looked back and now don't even care to remember details of Windows 7. Yeah, I'm thinking what they're thinking is they're thinking of the simplicity of Windows 7. Windows 7 was so easy to use, you didn't have to think about it. Most people that I know today, they get into Windows 11, they look at me and say, well, okay, now what do I do? That's kind of a tough question to answer because, there's so many ways of doing things. And then I look at them and say, which way do you want to do it? There's 3 or 4 ways of doing the same thing. That's why most people look at me and say, God, I wish I could go back to Windows 7. I don't know why they would. But that's just the thing that I hear people complaining about for Windows 11 is things have gotten more complex and more compact. They're trying to put more stuff into a small area. So you have a million things to click on in your screen. And in the earlier days of Windows 7, it never used to be that way. They used to have things spread out, kind of bigger, better. I don't know. I didn't mind Windows 7 too much. It wasn't all that bad. The thing that I'm tripping over nowadays is Windows as a service. And yes, I understand the reasons, the what's and the hows and the whys, but and I know Windows service as a service started quite a while ago, many years ago, but I don't know. I kind of, like I said, I understand the reasons they did it, but in them doing that, they changed the whole. They started changing the structure of how Microsoft works, which is the reason why they did that. And that's part of the reason for making change is sometimes good, but if they could just, I don't know, I'm going off what other people are telling me is they wish they can keep the simplicity of Windows, earlier versions of Windows, and keep it in Windows 11. A lot of people just get lost in Windows 11. They just look at me and say, well, where do I find that? The same place you could find it in Windows 10 and all the other Windows versions. No, you can't, because I tried it that way. Okay, so I take the keyboard, to pull their keyboard out, and I go click, 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 boom. It's right there. He looked at me and he said, how'd you do that? I said, Windows. I can't remember what it was, but I did the shortcut to finding it, which I do keyboard shortcuts more than I use the mouse, which most people find very frustrating with me. I don't use the mouse very much. If I want to move from one area to another, I use the arrow keys, I use the enter key, and I use whatever keys. I use the arrow keys, and very rare do I use the mouse. Unless I have to, unless I'm in a place where I have to just kind of or tabbing over or doing something. But yeah, the people just they look at Windows 11 and they just get confused. I said, just sit down and don't get so. I try to tell people not to get so caught up in their thoughts. Just think through your process and you'll figure it out. And if you don't, call me and I'll tell you. But at this point, I don't think you should have to. Just sit there and think about it for 10, 15 minutes and you'll figure it out. Even though there's one thing I haven't figured out, and I don't think you can. I don't know, is Wintermute here? Or I don't think so, but And the question I've always had, and I think you can, I just never bothered because I just do a search for it. Can you find disk cleanup nowadays without searching for it? Because I know in Windows 10 you'd go to C drive, down to properties, and then you'd go to disk cleanup or clean up your system files. I found disk cleanup once in the earlier versions of Windows 11, but I think they have since moved it because I went back to that area and it's no longer there. I think that's the other thing that kind of just hurts me in the knees a little bit is Microsoft has moved things to where even for me finding what I'm wanting to find, I have to search for it instead of just going, well, that is right over here, click, 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 boom, there it is. Now you have to do your keyboard and search for disk cleanup and then hit enter and it'll take you right to it. I kind of wish they hadn't done that, but they may not have. You should be able to find disk cleanup without having to search for it. But I can't. And that's what everybody laughs at me about. Say, you can't find disk cleanup? Well, it's very easy. Well, then point it out to me so I don't have to do search anymore. I don't like using search to find things. I should be able to find it within the system myself, but I can't. And I have gone looking for it. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong spot. Hello, Brian. Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go into search and type disk cleanup. I never had to before. And a couple of years ago, I was able to find disk cleanup without searching for it. I can't remember how I did it, but I mean, there should be a way to find it without searching for it. I would think. But maybe not. Maybe that's just a figment of my imagination. I know what other people are probably thinking. Well, just go to Copilot, ask Copilot. No, I'm not going to do that. Being that Copilot and all these other LLMs have a big chance of not being able to tell you the truth the first time. I don't know. I don't want to try. Well, I know human beings can do the same thing, but you would expect something different from a machine, something called Copilot or whatever they're called. You would think, or ChatGPT it's called. I don't know. One of them can get on the internet and one of them can't. I can't remember which can do which. But yeah, other people have told me just search in ChatGPT. How do you find disk cleanup without searching for it? A lot of people have told me they took that option out, but I don't think they did. Because there's 3 ways of doing everything. Are you now telling me there's only one way to find disk cleanup? I don't think so. It can be found by clicking your mouse somewhere. I just don't know where. But yeah, for the most part, I just go for a search and do disk cleanup, but you shouldn't have to do it that way. I never had to do it that way before. These other people have mentioned now you have to search for everything. When earlier versions of Windows, you could just go find it. Now you gotta search for everything. Yeah, I've noticed that about Windows. They're making you search for everything. That's one thing I don't like. I wish they had not gone down that road. But they did. Oh. Yeah, storage sins. I turned my storage sins off. Because storage sins doesn't get everything. Oh, is that what they turned the disk cleanup into, is storage sins? Yeah, see, that's another thing I wish they hadn't done. Storage sins. I know a lot of people like it. They say it makes life so much easier. But come at it from my point of view. Storage Sense is a pain in the. And I think every other tech around here will tell you they do what I do. We turn Storage Sense off because we do it differently. We don't do Storage Sense. We don't use disk cleanup. We do something else. Does the same thing. It just does a more thorough job of it. Disk clean or Storage Sense won't get everything, as Carrie has proven many times over. It gets a little bit of it, but if you want to get all of it, there are better ways of doing it. Like I said, I don't use Storage Sense. It just takes up another small resource, and it's another thing running. So anything that didn't need to run on my computer, I turned off. I know a lot of you guys disagree with doing that, but I know how to do it so it won't cause problems. Other home users, they're just going to go down the list and turn off, and you can't do that. You turned everything off, nothing's going to work. There's a certain procedure and a certain way that us here in our area, we do it differently. We just don't do it the Microsoft way. We've got a much more thorough way of doing it. We don't use third-party apps. And that's the other thing I'm trying to get people off of around here is third-party apps. I'd like to put out a notice that if people are going to use other apps besides Microsoft apps and Microsoft tools and whatever, then either your monthly or whatever, your charge, what you're paying now is going to go up, or I'm just going to start telling people stop using third-party apps. I think it can still be done, but like Carrie said, you really shouldn't. What you could do with third-party applications is what you used to be able to do with a third party, now Windows does. So all those apps that Terry was talking about 2 or 3 years ago, you don't need them anymore. Windows 11 has pretty much erased all that stuff he was talking about 3 years ago because Windows, although it doesn't do it good, it does do it by itself. Like they've got all these browser guards and everything in the antivirus, and there's something he was talking about 3 years ago. It was kind of like a stoplight. It had red, orange, and green. And if it was green, the website was good. If it was red, get the hell off that website. I don't know. There's a bunch of apps that he was using back then that Windows is now doing itself. Just like this thing that, well, this is kind of a good thing. Oh, it's 2:30 already? Damn, I gotta get going. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Oh, come on, head, get with it. But anyhow, the third-party apps and everything that Windows is doing don't need the third-party apps anymore. WOT, Window, yeah, Web of Trust. Thank you, BH Ringer. Yes, that's the one. Because I knew if I bring up the stoplight thing, I knew somebody would think of it because that's the only way I could describe it. And BH Ringer just said it was WOT, Web of Trust, yeah. Bitdefender has something similar. I've never used Bitdefender. Never used Bitdefender. Never had a reason to. Web of Trust, yes. Yeah, all those kind of programs nowadays you don't need because Windows will do it for you. Oh, yeah, the self-repair. That's what I was going to talk about before I leave here. Windows is now... I don't know how far they're going to go with this. I haven't done any research on it. But Windows being self-repairing. Now, I know they've talked about this before, that they've said that they're going to have Windows be able to repair itself. Well, it still hasn't done that yet. So now they're talking about it again. Well, is that really going to happen this time? Are they really going to have Windows have a message come up and say self-repair option or something? I don't know. It'd be in your settings somewhere where you can get Windows to self-repair or look into something that's wrong. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't done any research into it yet because I haven't found anybody that wants to talk about it. Even people around here, I've talked to them about, what about that Windows self-repairing thing? And they just look at me. He's like, all right, I'll shut up. I won't say anything. They do not like that idea, and they won't talk about it. Because Windows, if it does do that, like Bob said, is going to take us right out of a job. We won't be able to have our normal fix this, repair that, and do it because Windows is going to do everything. Unless it's mechanical. Like if a fan quits working, we got to go replace that, or a power supply goes up in smoke, it won't repair that. But Bob and these guys around here, they're not a big fan of that. They're hoping Microsoft forgets about it. Yes, I know, Brian, I know you have to type disk cleanup, but you shouldn't have to be able to do it that way. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They never used to do it that way. You used to be able to just go right up to C drive and go to properties and go to disk cleanup, but now I guess you gotta type for it, and I guess it's storage sense, and they've kind of messed that up, to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of storage sense. I don't like using it. I've got other more thorough ways of doing it. Ooh, the neighbors are out in the hallway again. Let's see, did I go through everything I wanted to? Google Keep Reminders. I know I've heard of that before. I've never looked into it. Maybe I should one of these days. But it's probably something I'm never going to use, so. But that's the news for today. That's what I know. And just, before I go here, I'm just going to remind everybody to update your browsers. If I see a new browser update coming out, I'll let you guys know. There's quite a few of them for Google. And they're starting to see that Google is starting to get hit hard. But now that a lot of people are starting to go from Google, well, not everybody, but a fair majority of people are going from Google to Firefox. Firefox is now starting to have the same problem. They do an update, and that update fixes something or causes another problem, and then they got another vulnerability they got to fix. So they got to put a patch to the fix, so they can fix the update that they put in place, because something screwed something up. So I've been noticing Firefox has been doing that too. So the threats of viruses and everything, and man-in-the-middle attacks and everything are starting to become more, more prevalent for, you see them more in businesses, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's thinking homeowners are completely immune to that. We're safe from that. No, you're not. No, you're not. I've had 2 people in the last year and a half. I've had to get them off that issue. 2 people in their own apartment that didn't run a business. They were just sitting at home all day, doing things on their computer, and guess what happened? People say we're immune from that. No, we're not. I've asked Carrie, I've asked Brian, I've asked Brian Brytek, I've asked him, yeah, he's had two private people he knows that have had to get that malware stuff off their computer and then had to redo their system because their system just kept getting attacked. I know Steve Gibson has had that happen many years ago, although he runs a business. He's on the internet more than I am, so, and he has a website, so it can happen. It's just it doesn't happen as often with homeowners as it does with business users, but I have seen it with homeowners. They've actually called me and said, "You won't believe what I'm seeing on my screen right now. Let me guess, you get a ransomware attack." If I'm looking at this right, it looks like it is. Like, oh my god. How in the... Alright, I'll be over there. So I get off the phone, grab my things, and I go over there. 2 hours later, I'm coming back home. Wow, that was rough. It just would not let me correct anything. And it kept spewing out the same message, and it got more frequent. So it'd go from it would just infiltrate your whole screen. I think, oh my god, I've got to get rid of this somehow. So little by little, inch by inch, like I said, 2 hours later, I got it fixed and everything was good. And I've heard from her since then, but not with that problem. I don't know what the hell. Zoom is malware? Well, I'm sure if you were to tell the people of Zoom that your own product is malware, I'm pretty sure they would disagree with you. But you could be right. It could be malware. It could be almost anything you want it to be. Being that it lets... Well, I think they blocked it. Boy, it's getting noisy out in the hallway. I know they used to have Zoom bombings. People would just jump into Zoom meetings. I know they fixed that. They have fixed a few things with malware and viruses on Zoom and other platforms like that, but I don't know. Yeah, but they're taking care of the bad actors, BH. Zoom is not just sitting there in the background and doing nothing. Trust me. They've gone through leaps. They've gone through a lot of things to try to prevent some of the problems we've had. Even though, yeah, they could be better, but they are working on it. Little by little. And with that, guys, I'm gonna call it quits on this live stream. So do I start at the top of the list and work my way down for people that have been here? I guess that's how we'll do that. I didn't get very many people in chat today. Oh, well. William, Ken, Darren, Jeff, Charlie. Brian, BH Ringer. Well, yeah, I'll agree with that with the bad actors on Zoom. There are a lot of bad people on Zoom, but from what I'm being told, Zoom is trying to stay on top of that. So that's why we're not having the problems that we were years ago. Oh, you guys. Brian Lightfoot, at least one from California someplace. I'm just glad I'm the only one from Minnesota. I'm too old for us to keep hanging out there. Yeah, some place to go vegetate. Yeah, alright guys. Thank you for being here. If anybody hasn't hit the like button or subscribe, I greatly appreciate it if you would do that. It might help. It might help YouTube realize that I exist, and I've got to find a whole new group of people besides the group of people that are here, which are just the Zoom homies. Well, except for a few of them. It seems I've lost my old crowd that I had from 9-10 months ago. Besides the Zoom homies, it seems like I've lost a lot of people. Maybe those people will come back once I get off my stubborn kick and get into doing what I'm supposed to do, which is supposed to be a tech channel and working on things, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyhow, I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to check my days again. Today is Thursday. I'll have a live stream tomorrow. Same place, same time. Probably won't talk about the same things, even though, I don't know, today wasn't bad, but anyhow, guys, with that, thank you for all for being here. It has been fun. And we'll do this again tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have just as much fun, if not more. Alright, guys, with that, I'm calling it quits. Bye for now.